sure. seated. Ms. Cutts.
Thank you, Your Honor. We're here today in two separate cases, both entitled State of Ohio versus Whitney Schoolcraft. Case numbers 26 CR 000371 and 26 CR 000574. Defendant is present in open court today with her counsel, Timothy Deeb. Your Honor, here today for sentencing. The defendant was last before Your Honor on June 2nd of 2026. We're in the 371 case. She pled guilty to counts 1 and count 3, both separate and distinct domestic violence counts, both felonies of the 4th degree. And in 574, she pled guilty to count 1, domestic violence, a felony of the 4th degree, and count 3, vandalism, a felony of the 4th degree. At that time, a pre-sentence report, psychological evaluation, and victim impact statement were ordered. The state's understanding that all of those items were completed and provided to the court, and that all parties are prepared to go to sentencing at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Deeb.
We are prepared to go to sentencing at this time, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, I'd like my client to address the court prior to myself. Whitney.
Thank you for allowing me to speak, Your Honor. I want to start off by saying how sorry I am for the physical and emotional harm that I've caused my husband and also the destruction of our home. I understand the severity of my actions, and I wish every day that I can take them back. On the first incident, we were both drinking at home, and I finally confided in my husband that I wanted a divorce. I felt like our relationship was toxic. It was causing me severe depression, and I was also drinking heavily, and that was affecting my physical health, and I was really scared. I know that our relationship quickly turned into me being completely reliant on my husband, both financially and emotionally. I was forced to quit my job as of May 1st because I was also hired on as his employee as of January 1st that year. I was forced to cut off all communication with my past, except for my family, and I was also continuously encouraged to change my phone number. I know that our relationship was completely codependent from the beginning. After our conversation, he was continuously trying to persuade me to change my mind. After about an hour, I stand firm in my decision, and I decided to go to bed, but he brought me a drink, and hoping that would persuade my decision, I still went to bed. I still told him no. He slammed the door, and then I didn't really see him the rest of the evening. I woke up in the middle of the night, went to our kitchen, and I found that the contents of my purse were scattered throughout the kitchen, and my phone and the bank cards were missing. I went into our spare bedroom to approach him, and he was shoving me out into the hallway. And in doing so, he caused my nose and my lip to bleed, and also shoved my finger in the door. I was repeatedly asking him to leave, and then eventually turned physical, and I was trying to force him to leave, and he pinned me down, and that's when I bid him to release me. I have PTSD from both past sexual and physical abuse, so that event really triggered that. But also, had I not been drinking and I was regularly engaging in my mental health the way that I should have been, I know that these actions would have been different. After this, I did engage in a PHP program through Highland Springs. I was doing really well in maintaining my sobriety. Shortly after, my husband asked me to come home and work for our marriage, and that was something I also wanted to do. So he picked me up from the family friend's house that I was staying at. I remained sober, and I was still going to the PHP program, and things seemed to be going good, but only for a short period of time. On the morning of the second incident, I was getting a root canal done, and I made the stupid decision to start drinking because of the pain. My husband had been out late that evening also drinking, and when he came home, I decided that I had the liquid courage to confront him about infidelity, that I had found text messages in his phone, and I also had my own personal conversation with the other woman, and she was confirming that he was a customer of hers. What should have just been a conversation that was saved for sober minds, quickly turned to an all-out verbal war. I was so upset, and I was not thinking clearly, that I was throwing objects around our house, and I wanted to break them. I guess I just wanted to break things the way I felt my heart was breaking. In the process of that, one of those objects must have hit my husband, and I never wanted that to become physical, so I tried to remove myself and tried to leave the house. But my husband took the keys out of my purse, and he also locked me out of the house. He was antagonizing me from our kitchen window, and I was just so upset and I felt so defeated. I started banging on it, and in that process I broke the window and it caused a huge gash in my arm. I called for a ride to the hospital, went to the hospital, and I was waiting for a long time, and I grew impatient and I just wanted to go home and wrap the wound myself. I got home and I wanted to do that, and I was also hoping, to have an honest conversation at this point, and I know now looking back on it that was completely impossible given both of our states. But I found that I was locked out of the house again, and I also didn't have a cell phone to call anyone to come pick me up or to call anyone for help. So I made the decision to break through our door, and in doing that activated our alarm system and notified the police. I know that none of my actions are acceptable. I know that drinking impaired my ability to handle both matters civilly. But I know that alcohol was not just the biggest factor. I know that my mental health also played a huge factor in that as well. I suffer from past traumas, not just as a child, but also as an adult. I did get on track with my mental health after a suicide attempt in 2023. After that, I engaged with mental health services through Cherick, and I was doing that for about a year, but I had trouble really connecting with the counselors. I felt like they didn't understand my background, and I was also really medicated. I just thought that I was being overprescribed. So I switched to services through Cultivate Counseling, and I really liked my counselor. She was awesome. She was also certified to do EMDR therapy, and that was going really well, but our move up here to Lake County really hindered that, and everything switched over to virtual visits. I just felt like I wasn't really getting the help I need, and I was also having to cancel and reschedule my appointments because of the fishing business. Sorry. If I'm given the opportunity, I really welcome an IOP program. I know that it's not because I need to do it, Your Honor, it's that I really want to do it. I was never able to admit that I was an alcoholic. I guess I never really wanted to admit it. I just thought that it was okay because I was using it to numb myself. I never really understood how out of hand it got until I hit rock bottom, and it cost me everything and the people that I love most. I guess I was basically living my life the exact definition when it came to dealing with my sobriety and my mental health. Over the time, I've had a lot to think about while I've been here in the county jail. One of them I've realized is exactly how codependent our relationship was, and that our relationship is not healthy and cannot continue. At first, I was really pleading for this to work out, and I was scared, thinking that I would have nothing when I came out of here, but I really realized that, there was absolutely a me before this relationship. I was completely independent, and I was on track, and I was doing everything that I needed to be. I had a support group in Stark County, and I was, maintaining sobriety for a good amount of time, and things were going well. So, I do wish my husband the best, but I know that that's time for that relationship to end. But I think the biggest thing that I've realized, Your Honor, is acceptance. I do accept that I'm an alcoholic, and I know that I cannot control myself if I don't go to AA, and then I also don't find, a group of like-minded people and that support me. I also accept that I cannot work through past traumas and mental health without IOP, individual counseling, and staying medicated. I really hope to take this opportunity to learn and grow while I'm not just applying them to everyday life, but I'm encouraging them or applying them to the future. I'm committed not just to temporary sobriety, but I'm committed to a lifetime of sobriety. I'm looking forward to holding myself accountable, and I look forward to change. I know that change can only start with me. and I hope to eventually repair damaged relationships that I've caused. But I know that I cannot do that until I'm comfortable and ready to be the person that I need myself to be. Only then can I be the person that people depend on me, and I'm talking most importantly about my children. I know that taking the steps to a lifetime of sobriety and also handling my mental health are the biggest actions that I can take to show how much I truly regret the trauma that I have caused to the people I love around me. And lastly, Your Honor, I do want to say how truly sorry I am for my husband and that it cost us our marriage. Thank you.
Mr. Deeb?
Go ahead, Exie. Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, she acknowledges her shortcomings and what her issues are, and I know she's known them for an extended period of time because she's been in and out of counseling. She just didn't realize that the problem was something that couldn't be managed easily or couldn't be managed and how significant it was. But she's had some time to reflect because she's been incarcerated and she's facing felony charges. And with the on and off history she's had of going to counseling, going to CHARC, not liking the counselor, then being switched to telehealth, when she had her suicide attempts and going through her mental health issues. She's never completed the programs because she needed to complete them for herself, but because she's been told to do them. But she understands, and it's the first time in her life she's acknowledged that she believes she's an alcoholic, and it's something that she leans on, and that's her go-to. And her drink of choice would be tequila, which brings up her BAC very quickly. But that's not the way to cope with everything. She wants to maintain her sobriety and her mental health, and the issues that happen and her bipolar, manic issues with depressive behavior need to be addressed because it's just a spiral and add alcohol, and that's just putting a match to fire. So she's committed to doing everything that she needs to do. She would like to get back to her life and get immersed in counseling, AA. She had 7 months of sobriety when she went down to when she lived in Stark County before. She knows the services down there. She's familiar with the area. She would be closer to her children, who she was seeing roughly 3 days a week prior to these issues. And she knows that she has a support group down there with some friends that helped her maintain sobriety and work. She knows that she's going to be on probation here if this court puts her on probation, that it would be through Lake County, and she's committed to coming up here. She does have transportation. She's hoping that as part of the divorce that she gets the car that she had, but we have not spoken about that with Mr. Schoolcraft, and I don't know what that situation is. So I know that they started preliminary steps towards doing a dissolution, but with her being incarcerated and the lack of communication, it's been difficult. Though she did not like the initial paperwork that was sent over, it was very one-sided, but she understands that. I know with her jail calls, she's done one thing or said one thing and then goes back on the phone calls and does another. But one of the things I've drilled into her is if she continues to be with Mark, she's going to go to prison if this court doesn't send her today. Because at that point, the court would have no other option because she'd be violating her probation if that's the case. And that's a toxic situation for her. Being 32-year age gap, the things in common are basically just he can support her and she's an attractive female for him. What we'd like to do, Your Honor, is get her immersed into a program that she could live a sober life with. She would ask the court a scram bracelet to ensure her sobriety so she can prove to this court that she's not drinking and she has no intention of drinking. And she understands that any violation of that would put her back in jail and put prison on the table. And she would like to get into an intensive IOP, get back to the EDMR treatment that she was going through, make sure that the medication that she's on is appropriate. In the past, they've tried numerous drugs, but the dosages and everything have caused her either not to feel anything or it's not sufficient enough, but they've had trouble coming up with the right concoction for her. So she is hoping that that's something that she can get to a mental health counselor and figure out what's best for her manic and bipolar depressive behaviors so that she would be able to function, get a job, and get back to a normal life. And with her being in Stark County, the chances of her running across Mark would be nil because he told me he doesn't go down there unless it was to see her. So she'd be committed to staying down there and staying away from him, except for when she had to come up here for probation. So we'd ask the court to allow her to be released, allow her to have the restrictions that the court would see fit, such as a scram unit or the other controlling device that the court would.
What's a scram gonna do?
Well, because she's an alcoholic, Your Honor, she wants
Yeah,
to
but-
prove to this court that she's sober, because when she's drinking with her mental health issues,
When she's
that's-
drinking,
it's-
she
goes
gets
off the
arrested,
rails.
so the alert will come from the police, because she can't control herself.
Well, that's what she's planning on becoming
So-
sober, but that would be one more.
Yeah, but there's
Incentive.
there's three problems here, and the problem isn't Mark, okay? All the focus has been on Mark. Mark has been around for a year or so. These problems have been around for a while. In 11, there's an unlawful restraint in Kent. In 12, there's an assault in Kent. Obstructing official business in Kent in 12. Criminal damaging in 13 in Portage. Robbery in Kent in 14. Domestic violence in 14 in Kent. Violation of a TPO in 14 in Kent. Disorderly conduct in 14 in Kent. So Mark is not the problem. Mark is just the latest object of the problem. The problem is you. The problem is your drinking. The problem is your mental health, which you've not addressed. And the problem is you're a very angry person, which gets fueled by your alcohol and your mental health problems. The problem is not Mark. Mark is just the object of you acting out on these problems. So you haven't solved these problems. And what you've done hasn't solved these problems. Mark is not the problem.
Your Honor, we'd ask the court to allow her to go, to be on community control and to put the appropriate programs in place so that she can deal with her problems, Your Honor. Thank you.
Well, hell, I'd like to find the appropriate program, okay? That's what I'm struggling with.
Understandable, Your Honor.
So, Ms. Cutts?
Thank you, Your Honor. These cases began in March of 2026, where initially we have a situation where the defendant punched her husband in the face, bit him 2 times, leaving black and blue marks on him, grabbed a metal shovel, threatened him with it. That was the 371 case. A no contact order was put in place. A bond was posted. When she came out, she eventually went back to the home. This is the 574 case in April of 2026, where she hit her husband in the head with a vase, threw a mirror as well as other objects. The mirror broke, cutting her husband's leg. As he indicated to me, he probably should have gotten stitches, but he did not go to do that. She damaged the home, breaking windows, kicking in doors, throwing his printer, laptop, different things around, damaging business equipment, over $8,000 worth of damage. He provided the state, which defense has a copy of some of the items that have been fixed or that he got estimates to fix. The amount that was provided was $7,836.70. That did not include his printers, laptop, anything of that nature. Last time I spoke with him, he had not taken the time to go through those yet, based on the emotional stress and pain that he was going through with everything in their relationship. The alarm was alerted, or the alarm alerted the police, because whenever the victim locked the door, she would either break the window in or the door open to get in when she had the no contact order not to be there. Whether he invited her or not doesn't change the fact that she had a no contact order. She was a grown woman. She didn't have to go where she knew she wasn't allowed to be. His injury was exacerbated by the victim's age. He is 65 years old. deemed elderly by legal definition. He suffered physical harm, psychological harm, and economic harm. For the March incident, he had various physical marks visible to the eye, as well as the fact that this was his partner, his wife, who was committing these offenses, so having that impact on him emotionally and psychologically. In April, he also had physical marks. He had a lot of blood on him when the police arrived and had spent a period of time cleaning up blood, even though the police saw more blood in the home. Again, psychological harm and economic harm for all the damage that she did in the home and to his items. The relationship with the victim obviously facilitated the offenses. Obviously, the relationship is needed for the domestic violence. It is still a factor to consider. However, it is not necessary for vandalism, but that is what gave her access to a lot of the things to damage. I know the court has talked about her criminal history. We are in agreement with the concerns about the types of offenses that she has convictions for. The unlawful restraint, obstructing official business, and assault. Those were in 2012. She had criminal damaging with failure to appear warrants. She also had domestic violence, robbery, F2, violating protection order. All of these were not this victim, but the father of her children. She disorderly conduct, hit skip in 2018, criminal damaging, resisting arrest in 2023. She has an OBI that occurred in 2023. I believe the conviction was in 2025. She clearly has alcohol issues that she has not fully taken account of or dealt with appropriately. While she was in the jail, at least through the change of plea time frame, she was having another individual send messages to her husband. No contact was against her. Though she was in jail on the 574 case, she was still technically on bond on the 371, and the no contact was still in place. Some of those messages or jail calls talked about that she was going to, not using her terminology, but be very nice to Mark to help her get out of jail, and that if they were going to get divorced, that she was not leaving without something. She wanted him to be begged, to write letters. She's the one who wanted him to get her an attorney, using whatever she could to get him to try and help her out of the situation that she created herself. And he did some of that. He got her an attorney, he set up appointments, did things that she wanted, and continues at times to do things to help her. Defendant does not seem to understand the seriousness of what occurred based on the phone calls and the messages. Minimized what occurred in the pre-sentence report. As this court noted, a lot of what she had to say today was all about Mark as opposed to about herself.
Why were you contacting him when you were in jail? Or why were you having others contact him while you were in jail?
In the hopes of repairing my relationship, Your Honor.
Wasn't there a no contact order?
Yes, Your Honor, there was.
Why didn't you pay attention to that?
Because I was being selfish, Your Honor.
Well, you're a pretty good manipulator, right?
Yes.
Go ahead.
She was on bond when the 574 case occurred, so she did violate bond, as well as obviously she was on bond, violated bond. Initially, victim did get a protection order March 17th of 2026, but it was withdrawn on March 24th. He has since gotten a protection order again, June 25th of 26. It was, the ex parte was granted. The full hearing is set for July 9th of 2026. He does not wish to have her return to the home, does not want to have contact with her. My understanding is he does wish to end the marriage. Based on all of the information, the disregard for court orders, the violations of bond, we do feel that prison is consistent, and the state is concerned whether a defendant is truly amenable to community control. So we do think prison would be appropriate. She has 5 days credit in the 371 case and 80 days credit in the 574 case. If this court is willing or is going to give her an opportunity, we would ask for jail treatment program, NeoCap, anger management, whether she gets that at NeoCap or separately, sober living at least 6 months. If TDR is needed to ensure from NeoCap to sober living, that that she have a full mental health evaluation and follow all recommendations, that she not use any drugs or alcohol, have periodic screens that come back negative. She have one doctor, one dentist, one pharmacy, and sign releases. If she is prescribed any medications, they are taken only as prescribed. That she engage in 12-step program with a sponsor in a home group. That she have individual counseling with the EMDR. That she engage in full-time work and/or school. That she have no contact with the victim, his residence, or his employment. She was working for him, and when these incidents started happening, she took pictures of herself with injuries that some she told the police she didn't know how she got, in theory to make him look bad for his businesses. We'd ask for restitution in the 574 case for the $7,836.70. That should be made aware of that if she does violate between these two cases, she's looking at 72 months or 6 years in prison. So prison is the state's recommendation, and that's the state's position. Thank you.
Why did you break that window?
He was antagonizing me from the other side, Your Honor, and I was angry.
From the other, he was inside, you were outside, and you broke the window because he was antagonizing you from the inside?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's silly, isn't it?
It is.
Why did you destroy some of his equipment?
I just wanted to break things, Your Honor. I was so angry. I didn't want things to be physical between him and I was drunk, and I was not thinking clearly. I was being irrational.
Did you send some pictures out of yourself alleging that he beat you or injured you?
I posted it on a story on Instagram.
Why?
To get his attention.
To get his attention or to harm him?
To get his attention.
Okay. None of what you have done is the least bit rational.
I know.
Okay. And you have an idea of how you're going to cure all these ills, right?
I have an idea of how I should start, Your Honor.
Okay. One way isn't through this, whatever you want to call it, telehealth or virtual treatment or any of that nonsense.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. This is a long-term problem that you have that requires a committed long-term solution. And at least up until a month ago, it hasn't gotten through to you because you're still trying to get in contact with him. And you seem to think everything gets better if you go to Stark County.
I don't think that just going to Stark County will solve my problems, Your Honor. I really believe that through individual counseling and IOP, sobriety, and being medicated.
What is IOP?
Intensive outpatient.
What does that mean?
I'm going to a group. I assume it's similar to my PHP program that I was in. That was
What
an
was the
everyday.
PHP program you were in?
It's a partialized hospitalization
I
program.
know what these letters stand for, but I want to know what they are.
I was going every day in group therapy, and we were just focusing on mental health. It was a different topic every day. We would do art therapy for some of the class.
Where were you doing this?
Highland Springs, Your Honor.
Where's Highland Springs?
It's in Warrensville, I believe. Garfield, somewhere on there. I believe it's off Harvard.
So where were you living when you were going to that?
Well, when I first enrolled, I was living in Geauga and Chagrin Falls, but then, Mark had asked me to come home, so I was also in Menor.
Okay. Where were you getting the EMDR therapy?
That was through Cultivate Counseling
Where is that?
in Cuyahoga Falls.
Okay. And explain that to me.
EMDR therapy.
What do they do?
It's actually like a form of hypnosis, Your Honor. You're basically kind of reliving your past traumas that you've kind of buried down, and you're bringing all of that and working through them all again. It's kind of hard at first, but in the long run, it's very beneficial.
When did you do that?
Let's see. I ended in September of last year. So I was doing it, we probably started in July.
July of 25?
Yes, Your Honor.
Why did you start it in July of 25?
Well, my counselor, just kind of wanted me, I wanted to develop a strong relationship with my counselor first. We wanted to get to know each other. I needed to really trust her to be able to open up about.
At Cultivate Counseling?
Yes.
All right. Well, why did you go to Cultivate Counseling in the first place?
Because I did not like my counselors. It's not that I didn't like them, I just really couldn't.
Where?
At Cherrick, Your Honor.
Okay, when were you going to Cherrick?
I started at Cherrick after my suicide attempt in 23. Between 23 and 24, I was attending Cherrick.
Okay. Until you went to Cultivate Counseling?
Yeah, I think that there was about a 3-month gap until I found Cultivate Counseling and started doing my therapy through there.
What medication were you prescribed in that 23 time frame?
Oh, I was prescribed a lot. I know the biggest one was Lamoctrin, I believe Celexa, I know Prazosin, something for my PTSD, and I know that there was a fourth, but I cannot remember what it was.
When you were in the PHP, what medication were you prescribed?
I was not prescribed any medication. I was trying to get back on my meds through the PHP program, but I had not seen the provider yet.
Well, how long were you at Cultivate Counseling?
For about a year.
Okay. Did they ever put you on meds?
No, they did not. She
What's
had
your-
asked me if I wanted to be on meds, but I was kind of uncomfortable with the idea because of how much I was prescribed previously at Cherrick. I just
What's your, as a result of the PHP, did they come to some conclusion as to your diagnosis?
I was previously diagnosed with bipolar disorder, PTSD, anxiety, and depression.
Okay. Did Cultivate Counseling concur in those diagnoses?
Yes, they did.
And they didn't prescribe medication for those conditions?
She recommended a provider to me, but I was not comfortable taking the medications because of my previous experience. I wanted to try out my new individual therapy with my new counselor, and then I also wanted to try out the EMDR therapy as well.
Okay. How long were you doing the EMDR therapy as it relates to the March incident here?
I stopped in September.
Why?
Because I started working and everything was virtual. It's kind of hard to do the hypnosis process through virtual visits. Also, I was, having to reschedule and cancel my appointments because the fishing business was getting busy. But I had, been canceling and rescheduling them prior to September. So that was also really hindering my EMDR therapy.
So they thought it was a good idea to do your EMDR hypnosis through a computer screen?
Yeah.
That sounds like a really stupid idea.
I agree, Your Honor.
Okay. So everything went downhill rather quickly when you stopped addressing your mental health problems.
Yes, it did, Your Honor.
When you ignored them, your mental health got out of control. Then you began drinking, that was out of control. And then the beatings began.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So what's the solution?
Your Honor, I really want to get back to my group of support people, that have encouraged me throughout the years, to stay sober and to deal with my mental health and know about my past traumas, Lord, and or Your Honor. And I really want to go to AA and also be around people, with similar experiences as myself that also encourage me. I really want to sponsor. I think the 12-step program will really work, and I want to get back into individual therapy, and I want to stay on my medication. I am on medications now that the jail has prescribed. I'm back on my Lamoctrin and my PTSD medicine and an antidepressant. I feel like these dosages that I'm on now are really working for me. I don't think that I'm overly prescribed. So,
And you have indicated several times here today that you think you should be involved in an IOP.
yes, I do. I really think that group therapy on top of individual therapy would be really helpful for me.
Where?
Well, I know that through my process here, Lake Geauga is one that came up, and it seems like it would be really helpful. But if I go to Stark County, I did find 3 places that provide that: Arrow Passage Recovery, AVO Recovery, and Phoenix Rising.
Now, when Ms. Cutts was talking before, I interrupted her, and I had concluded, and you agreed with me, that you're a manipulator.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, you wouldn't be trying to manipulate me, would you?
No, Your Honor.
Because you've spent a great deal of your adulthood doing that, right?
Yeah, Your Honor, I think I used it as a defense mechanism. I
Well,
used it as a way to survive.
I don't know about whether it's a defense mechanism or not, or it's an offense mechanism, or something in between, but whatever it is, you've done it. You've done it, in one sense, quite successfully, which has led to you being right where you are.
I understand.
So you can talk all you want, and you can try to convince me, Mr. Deeb, your probation officer, Mark, and anybody else you want of what you think you want to convince them of. But ultimately, unless you do something about it, you're going to crash and burn again and again and again.
That's the definition of insanity that I was talking of. I'm really sick of living my life this way, Your Honor.
Well, then you shouldn't live your life that way.
I don't want to.
Well, then you shouldn't.
I understand.
I don't know if you do or you don't. Doesn't matter if I know if you do or you don't. You're either gonna do what you're supposed to do, or you're not, and if you don't, you'll crash and burn again. So the manipulation that you've utilized has gotten you nowhere, okay, in the past, except here, and it will get you nowhere in the future except back here. I don't know if you understand that, if you care about that, if you don't understand it, if you don't care. I don't know.
I do care, Your Honor.
Okay. So you've got a severe alcohol problem, a severe mental health problem, and a severe anger problem that all feed off each other and work to do nothing but destroy you and everyone around you. All right, I reviewed the pre-sentence report in the psychological evaluation, and the victim impact statement is, you mentioned, Ms. Cutts, an amount of $78 some odd. Is that a restitution
Yes.
request?
The state is requesting restitution. That is the amount of receipts we have. It is my understanding that there's more than that, but I don't have documentation beyond that. So I was just asking for what the documentation level was.
And that was provided to you by Mark?
That is correct. And it has been provided to defense counsel previously.
Is that right, Mr. Deeb?
Absolutely correct, Your Honor. And I've conferred with Mark, and he verified that.
All right, I've considered all the provisions in 29, 29, 11, 12, and 13. I'm going to place you on community control for a period of 5 years. On the 371 case, you're going to serve 50 days in jail with credit for 5. The last 30 days, you're going to be in the jail treatment program. Follow all recommendations. Upon the completion, you're going to get a mental health evaluation, another mental health evaluation. And if you think Lake Geauga is a place that would be beneficial, you're going to go to Lake Geauga, get it done, and follow their recommendations. You're to have no illicit drugs or alcohol, and you'll be screened. You're to utilize only one doctor and one dentist and one pharmacy. For prescription medication, take your medication as is prescribed and sign releases so probation can get your records. You're to obtain and maintain full employment. No contact with Mark Schoolcraft. Restitution to him in the amount of $7,800 what? 11?
$7,836.70.
78.36 and 11 cents.
70 cents.
70 cents. 11 stuck on my mind. And pay the costs and supervision fees. Now, you're also to specifically, if it doesn't get covered by the mental health aspect through Lake Geauga, engage in a anger management program and follow those recommendations. And if you do not, I don't know whether Lake Geauga is set up for the EMDR treatment. If they're not, you're to engage in that treatment. That is the one thing that you think was helpful to you, correct?
Correct, Your Honor. And I did speak with the woman when I was doing my mental health evaluation through Lake Geauga, and she did confirm that they have therapists that are certified in EMDR.
Okay. Any other terms, Ms. Randallson?
Are we doing anything with the other case, Your Honor?
Yes, 80 days, credit for 80, and all the terms that I outlined in the 371 case are concurrent with the 574 case. Anything besides that?
No, Your Honor.
Do you understand the terms?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
All right, if you violate the terms, the state will file a motion to terminate your community control. If I find you violated on 371, there's a 36-month prison sentence potentially. And on 574, there's also a 36-month potential prison sentence for a total of 72 months. You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
Anything else, Ms. Cutts?
Yes, Your Honor. Just to be clear, the restitution order would just be in the 574 case, correct?
Yeah, whichever one that the facts apply to.
And the community control is concurrent on all counts and both cases. Ask the court to dismiss the remaining counts,
Okay, they're dismissed.
and that's it from the state.
Mr. D?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay.
All rise.